Where's Sarah Jane? Play. I want you to listen.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
What? Come where? What?
Welcome, psychic vampires, disembodied stomachs, and sentient Game Boys, to episode 462 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 27th of September 2022, and featuring Goodbye Sarah Jane Smith, written by Clayton Hickman and Gareth Roberts, and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Anjali Mohindra as Ronnie Chandra, and Tommy Knight as Luke Smith. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and for our younger viewers, a Game Boy is an ancient video game console like the Switch, except you couldn't plug it into your TV. With me are color commentator Alex Fireheart.
Been a while since we've had a cast list this long.
And technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
You children don't know the miracle that is Warlocked for the Game Boy Color. The best strategy game for a handheld ever made. Good day.
Ron San is still on medical leave, and we wish him best.
That being said, the latest bit of news out of him is that he's very excited that both our ghost hunting games, normally played on Wednesdays, are getting huge updates.
Nice.
Problem is, I am working all week. Literally, today is day 1 of 5. That being said, I've also officially updated my availabilities due to, this is kind of going into what we've been doing in our off time. I actually did have off one Saturday, heavens be, and I suddenly realized, like, towards the tail end of it, I'm like, I'm sick or tired of this being by the skin of my teeth. I want to actually be around when family and or friends need me, because it happens a lot on Saturdays. I think it's time to change availability, so I'm gone on Saturdays. My one day off a week. So I have officially changed it. I have not heard back yet, but I'm sure there's going to be some qualms about it, but I have stated in the notes very firmly, family and friends extremely need me on Saturdays, so I'm like, yeah, sorry, I'll be enforcing my Saturdays. And I do know I have 1 week I'm not going to be able to make the podcast next month. But so far it's only 1 week. If that starts becoming a trend again, Tuesdays will also be enhanced.
As long as that's not the week the special airs.
It's like the first Tuesday of next month.
Okay. So is that literally next week?
Yes.
Okay.
The 4th. So far, I have the 11th off.
Okay.
And that's as far as the schedule's been updated to. We'll be finding out about the 18th on Thursday. So in 2 more days. Yeah, they plan about 3 weeks in advance.
Gotcha.
Which is why I've not enforced Saturdays off until the 22nd, because I'm like, I'll give you guys the 15th. Because you probably already have it planned. But after that, it's just going to be a no-go.
All right.
But yeah.
How's everybody's week?
Like I said, I visited the extended family and got to go to a birthday party for my nephew and my father. Boys were happy. They got pizza. And they also got to see their other grandmother, too, while we were there. So, all was good. That's pretty much been about it. It's been that and work.
Yeah, kind of same with me. I'm trying to think if there's anything new on my end, and there really hasn't been. I've been working. I've been trying to get enough rest,
Well,
and that's about it.
I guess one minor thing
Mm.
to note is that I changed up how I'm doing videos on my channel. Instead of posting full-length live streams after they've been done, I've actually been consolidating them down into clip videos. That seems to have garnered a lot more interest, as well as constantly pushing my different music remixes. I start dabbling in bardcore, by the way, as well, and that's been getting a few extra eyes here and there.
Nice.
So it's been doing all right. And so I'm like, okay, we're getting like regular teens in viewership. That's been a struggle for a while. So we'll keep going this direction since it seems to be gradually improving. And as a matter of fact, I just got a person asking a few hours ago today if they could borrow some of my remixes for a project. And as far as I'm concerned, hey, if it's not on my free list, but you somehow managed to find a way to save the music I created, as long as you credit me, I'm fine with it.
Mm.
But yeah. But yeah, that's about it for me. And Bill said he was basically out of it. So,
Right.
Alex, anything for your week?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much nothing. Basically just work and video games, and that's been it.
Oh, I will say I do appreciate that it seems like fall weather is here.
Oh yes,
Um,
that too.
Knock on
Actually,
wood that it doesn't jump back up to the 90s in 2 days, but
that is
yeah.
guaranteed not to happen here. We're like looking at highs of 60s. And it's like I'm fine with this.
Mhm.
It's finally fall. Fall comes and then doesn't stay damn near long enough.
Right.
Quickly, way too quickly, slips into into winter, as far as I'm concerned.
hmm All right. So if that's it, then
That's our
tonight's
shortest.
yep. On tonight's show, we've got birthdays and news. We've got some geek talk, including the fact I think I forgot a show that I forgot a season of a show had finished a week or two ago, but I can talk about it today. And then we have our episode summary and our review, final thoughts, and ratings.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll start off with birthdays, and on the 22nd of September, we have Billy Piper, who played Rose Tyler from 2005 to 2009 and played The Moment in The Day of the Doctor. She turned 40. And on the same day, Fraser Hines, who played Jamie McCrimmon from 1966 to 69, and I'm assuming plenty of times since on Big Finish, and also in
Yeah.
the
Oh
Two
yeah, I
Doctors.
forgot the 5 doctors and the
Um,
2 doctors as
Five,
well.
five and Two Doctors, yeah.
Yeah.
He turned 78. On the 24th, we have Jay Griffiths, who played Jack in Unit in Two Stories in 2015. Turned 59. And also on the 24th, David Banks, who played the Cyber Leader from 1982 to 88, turned 71.
I'd like to state that the only good picture I could find of him recently is him literally grabbing towards the Fifth Doctor's neck.
And also on the 24th, Maurice Colburn, who played Lytton in Resurrection of the Daleks and Attack of the Cybermen, would have been 83, but died in 1989 at the age of 49. On the 26th, we have Leonard Sachs, who played Barusa in Arc of Infinity. Would have been 113, but died in 1990 at the age of 80.
Good run.
And on the 27th, we have Dominic Glynn, who did the title music for Trial of a Time Lord, turned 62. And also on the 27th, we have Milton Subotsky, writer and producer of the Aru Doctor Who movies that are not Hammer. Would have been 101, but died in 1991 at the age of 69.
A lot of people who appeared in 2 stories and therefore merited recurring character birthday nods. Well, not a lot, but 2, which is still more than normal.
Yeah. So moving on from that, we apparently have some new photo previews of Power of the Doctor.
I will say that the image at the very beginning of this article is actually a really good one. I'm surprised they didn't come up with that idea sooner.
The very top, or like the first regular sized one?
The very top one, like the one that looks
The
to be like
regeneration looking one?
Yeah, the one that looks to be regeneration energy. I'm like, how have they not thought of that one sooner? It actually looks really good.
No, it's redder than normal regeneration energy, although I don't know if that's just because it's a still image and not video.
It seems like orangey yellow enough to match some of the other regenerations we've had in New Who, to be fair.
I thought most of them were more yellow, but that like I said, that might be because they were moving.
Maybe it's your screen, I don't know, because it looks pretty yellow to me, at least in the center of the beams going off of her, or trails going off of her.
I think it's like, yeah, there's like yellow with red around it.
Right.
Or sort of reddy orangey.
But yeah, my initial reaction to that one in particular when I opened the tab was like, oh, why didn't we have this sooner? Seriously, we couldn't think of this with any of the other previous Doctors?
Oh,
okay, whatever.
maybe that energy is the power of the Doctor.
Don't make
We have the Doctor running around with like electro powers or something for an episode.
So the Doctor is going nuclear just like Godzilla, is she?
Maybe. Shin Doctor.
Does this mean the Doctor has to do Battle of Destroya before she goes nuclear and somehow regenerates a new Time Lord to take her place?
Well, considering how big some of the recent regenerations have been, that's not outside the realm of possibility.
Let's face it, folks. Some of these regenerations are getting a little over the top.
It's like that's why she's been so far from London the past few years. She's going to take a city with her when she goes.
Trying to be out in the middle of nowhere where she'll do no damage. So anywho, outside of that,
we have everybody standing in a neat line. It looks like, I mean, if they were wearing masks, I think they were socially distanced for COVID, the way they're standing.
Honestly, it does look to me like it might be them reacting to something for on screen, but it also looks like it could be them literally turning back to the director going, what? So it's hard to say.
And I know at least one of these I think I'd seen before because it had been posted on Instagram or something.
Yeah, these all feel old to me, but I don't know if that's because I saw when somebody took a photo of their copy of Doctor Who magazine, or what.
Hard to say.
Like, I know at least one of these we showed last week with the Master.
Yeah, but yeah, the office pictures look interesting, but they don't really tell anything new.
Right.
Yeah, some of these, the Master picture, that one that we were puzzling over last week. Yeah, there's that again.
I mean, I will say Ace looks like she could be like the commander of unit herself in that outfit.
Just about. Then again, it also looks like Tegan stole Captain Jack's jacket. I'm just saying, it kind of looks like it.
Yeah. Wool coat. Definitely not as long, but...
But a similar design and coat, yeah.
That, and she's probably about a head, at least half a head shorter than Jack.
What is this stuff that the Master's supposed to be next to? Like, is he just like on a balcony or something?
I think so, yeah. It's like a fence or something. But that looks like an auditorium.
Master also pictured new photos for filming at the Gate in Cardiff. I'm not sure what the Gate is. Unless that's an auditorium of some kind.
Yeah.
Probably.
Clicking on the thing, it says it's
an art center.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll explain the fancy railing he's leaning up against. Okay.
So he's probably on a stage that's used for Shakespeare, possibly Welsh Shakespeare. I don't know. Dude, I'm sure they do Welsh Shakespeare, right?
Him being captured by Unit, which is an interesting change.
I mean, he's assuming that he's not just going along with it or
He does look kind of mildly surprised by something, but I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I know in the 70s he got captured by Unit quite a lot. It just never seemed to stick.
Yeah, he just kind of willingly, smugly put up his hands and let them take him.
Yeah.
Picture of the lone Cyberman, a picture of the Master as Rasputin again, the more of the Time Energy Doctor, and Cyber Lords.
Yep.
Take this story and shove it.
It's funny because like the Cybermasters, I remember being like kind of on the idea, but like remember actually liking the look. So it's more like I don't know if I particularly care for them to stick around, but if they put out like a figurine of them or something, I'd probably want to buy it.
What's interesting is that in the photo there's only one Cybermaster, and then the rest are the regular new Cybermen.
Yeah.
I don't mind the rest of these Cybermen, but why do we have to keep coming back to the bad parts?
I guess that is kind of something that is confusing in its own right. That like it even brings up like they were thought to have been annihilated by that death particle thing.
Yeah.
So are we gonna get an explanation for that, or is this gonna be there
better be some goddamn explanations, otherwise you can again take this really bad story and take it right where the sun don't shine.
On one hand, it would be better writing for there to be some explanation. On the other hand, have we ever gotten an explanation for why the Master was still alive any of the times he should have died?
He's the Master. That's usually what we expect of the Master. However, these are the Cybermen. There's usually an explanation.
Well, they were caught in the Master's bubble of non-death.
I'm already crying bullshit.
I mean, like, it is funny that I think the only time they've ever explained the Master coming back was under RTD. And then every other time, like even when Sasha Dewan took over, there was no real explanation for why the Master was back. Which, at this point, it is so funny that if the time, like we've talked about it before, but if the Timeless Child was actually the Master, then that would make way more sense because it would just be a hand wave for, this is why the Master always comes back.
Again, why this plot point doesn't make any sense.
I mean, he came back because he's Rasputin. Or wait.
Oh. Oops. I'd like to still have them explain how he survived being thrown in the actually, no, it's easy how he survived that. I was going to say how he survived the cold water, but he's a Time Lord. Time Lords are barely affected by cold as is, unless it's freezing for a very, very long time.
All that said, the more we see of this episode, I mean, it's 90 minutes long. It's going to have Unit, Ace, Tegan, Vinder's confirmed. The Master, Ashad, the Cybermasters, the regular Cybermen, Unit, the Daleks, Kate Stewart. Am I missing anyone?
It's starting to sound like this is going to be really convoluted and messed up again.
It's going to have Graham. It's going to have Dan. I think it's going to have Ryan. But I don't see him in any of the photos, so maybe not.
Fudge.
I'm just
Chibnall, what have you done?
I'm just thinking in 90 minutes, there's a lot, and there's still speculation that, what was his name? The Grand Serpent, I think?
Yeah.
Like, that his story is not over.
Well, of course it's not over. They never gave him much of a story other than he's an asshole. And somehow he was tied to the Flux stuff, but not in any particularly direct way. Just that he somehow set it up.
Oh, yeah, and then there's still supposed to be, like, that big plot that was overseeing Flux of time being evil and whatever. So, I don't know how the fuck that plays into any of this. But again, 90 minutes feels shorter and shorter the more things I describe.
Chibnall has written himself into a wall, is now crying, and this entire special has gone to the wolves.
Given that this is a centenary special, you would think that they would have been given a full 2 hours.
Nah.
But, I guess 2 hours are only allocated for the massive anniversary specials, if even they are that long.
How long was... I don't think Day of the Doctor was that long.
I mean, yeah, maybe it was only 9 minutes.
Day of the Doctor was an hour and 17 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And I think they're not going to have anything that's only one part be longer than they would reasonably expect, like a 10-year-old to be able to sit through.
Your children need Ritalin, is what Bill's saying.
And of course, we still don't have an air date. Even though it'll clearly be
like, it'll be sometime
around that time,
right?
It'll
like
be
it's
sometime
confirmed.
like early next month at the latest.
Well, it should be somewhere vaguely between the 18th and 23rd. So it's either at the beginning of that or at the end if they're sticking with Sundays.
Yeah. Someone was saying that there's a potential. That the article itself is with the photos that we're looking at was speculating that if they stick to Sundays, then there's a chance that it could be on the 23rd as a way to it caps off celebrations. Which would make sense.
Which also would mean that BBC viewers would have been told by every show that they watch TV this week, and by Sunday they would be burnt out and I've been watching TV all week.
They'll be burnt out and Doctor Who's reigns will flag yet again.
Yeah, and they'll be like, it's Jodie's fault. At least the Chuds Online will be. Maybe not the BBC. The BBC might blame Chibnall, I don't know.
The usual airheads at knee jerk will start proclaiming, no, and then we'll actually see what the real reigns are in about a week afterwards. And then we can actually make real notations from there.
I mean, I almost wonder if they're just waiting for the month to roll over and then they'll be like, okay, well, it's happening this month. We should finally announce when it's actually going to air.
Or Chibnall has a board in his office. It's been 0 days since everybody was talking about RTD's special. And when that number gets high enough, he'll be like, okay, time for a trailer.
It's reached 4 days. Okay, we can probably do it.
The only thing I can really think of these days is that Chibnall waits until the episode is just flat out done. Okay, we've made sure everything's absolutely done.
BBC
and now
will not
we're
let
going
that
to
fly. They'd be like, it needs to be done, and you should already be done. Now where's our trailer? BBC would not wait that long.
The BBC marketing department is definitely giving him more control than they gave Moffat.
Hmm.
Well, now they're not going to have any choice in the matter.
Hmm.
All right. Anything else on the photos?
Not particularly. Just
All
that
right.
it all looks like it could be okay until I hit that last image. And then I just sigh, shake my head, and pray that it's not going to be terrible, but we'll see.
All right. So
If
we
it is
move.
terrible, I'm pretty sure I'll have plenty to say, and if Randy's back by then, he'll have plenty to say.
Mhm.
Uh,
All right. So
Alrighty.
moving on to Flux.
Flux news, which is odd, but okay. Actually, audio
Yep.
news, that's not Big Finish, that's Otter.
Yeah. So yes, Silver Screen Records are to release a soundtrack for the mini-series Flux on both digital on the 30th of September and as a CD set on the 11th of November. Which will, as well as the soundtrack on 2 discs, will also include a bonus CD featuring the soundtrack of Revolution of the Daleks.
That's quite a gap. I wonder if they're still if it's being impacted either by COVID or by gas prices from the Ukraine war. Maybe both.
Could be both, but I could definitely see it just being COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, yeah, the
Just
easy
ongoing
excuse would
supply
likely be
chain
COVID
issues.
for on
Mm.
supply issues with plastics and other things, and making sure they have enough ready for the whole release to actually come out properly. Yeah,
Oh yeah, plastic. I mean,
plastic
the
in
price
particular, because if they're releasing this on albums, they need to have all the plastic they can get their hands on to make sure that
Well,
the
even then,
albums will be
I'm
ready.
just thinking oil prices worldwide have gone up in the past year, so plastic itself is probably more expensive than normal.
I'm not sure plastic
Could be,
itself has gone up, but it has become scarce.
Mm.
It has gone through
And-
cycles of being much more scarce than we would like it to be. I believe, matter of fact, recently my store has run out of those little tiny, like, fit in your palm of your hand sauce cups, and we can't get them back.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So yeah, so maybe they're really encouraging people
but
buy
I would
it
prefer
digitally, so we don't have to make as many.
Yeah.
Right. But I
Well,
would prefer
again,
those little plastic
generally-
cups to be gone than the straws again, because if I have to wrap my lips around their paper straw, someone's going to eat it. Disgusting.
Yeah, I'm also just thinking physical media is generally dying as well to a point, so they're probably
point.
also just this way. It's also a way to push people towards, well, if you get it digitally, you get it like over a month earlier.
Speaking of which, does anybody remember for these past announcements, did they ever mention the vinyl?
I
Could-
don't think so.
Because I think that's the one type of physical media that's actually on the rise because of collectors and people who are like, like CD players were kind of mainstream and now they're not. But people who want really high quality aren't getting CDs, they're getting vinyl.
Yeah. If you want actual high quality, be able to hear every single instrument level audio, you need vinyl. As someone who actually owns vinyl.
Gotcha.
I don't go out of my way to collect it, but I will like go through like flea markets and garage sales and stuff, and occasionally if I see something I know anything about, I'll likely pick it up. I have at least one album of Kiss from that, so there's that.
But no Doctor Who soundtracks?
Sadly, no Doctor Who soundtracks. It's not popular enough, at least not the old stuff. I bump into a lot of classic rock things is what usually I'm looking through.
Gotcha.
If I can find even that. Otherwise, it's a lot of polka around here.
I can
Heaven
see
forbid.
that.
Yeah. Heaven forbid. With the region I live in, there's a lot of polka albums out there. Looking for a good home. Not mine. not unless it's Weird Al. But yeah. There are definitely re-releases out there, which is also what's been kind of keeping albums on the rise too. And I think at least to some degree, CDs still use at least a little bit of plastic in its stuff, but the main thing where it saves the data is something else. I forget what that is. But like the coating around it is plastic, so even that to some degree still uses plastic to at least some amount. So that's also why even getting CDs together is going to take a while. But yeah, digital, you can just slap that son of a gun out there and away it goes. No need for plastic. You just need to have the data and the servers to hold it.
So it's mostly made of two different types of plastic. There's the a clear polycarbonate plastic, a metal layer, which can be different types of metal, and then there's a protective coating, which is another plastic.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, there's two different kinds of plastic, plus the metal thing that where the actual data is saved. Gotcha. So yeah, even then, almost any version of physical at least requires some amount of plastic. CDs will require a little less, but it requires very specific kinds. Whereas albums are basically just regular plastic that just have this really good way of catching raw audio, though, and being able to amplify through speakers really well. Don't know
Moving
how that
on
happens, but yeah.
moving on from the tech advice. Anybody have any tracks that they're interested in re-listening to from Flux or Revolution of the Daleks?
I'm actually trying to remember anything from the music of these. That was actually my knee-jerk reaction too. Is there any rememberable music from this?
The funny thing is like, and I think I've brought this up before, but I don't particularly mind the fact that I can't really remember any like Chibnall era music, because I kind of prefer the lack of themes, because it feels more like Classic Who, where the music is just incidental.
I'm sorry, but even
except
classic
for the Dalek and Cybermen themes.
I was about to say, I'm sorry, but even Classic Who had themes, and they were pretty memorable at times. The Daleks and the Cybermen in particular had really good tension music. And there'd be occasional bits of other things once in a blue moon that would catch your attention too, like what was that one? I'd have to look at my playlist on YouTube again. I can't remember what the name of it was. That one from the giant crab episode.
Macroterror?
Yeah, from Macroterror. That one like band song that would occasionally play. Library, playlist, full view, scroll. No further down than this. That was a while ago. That was a few years ago that I put that on the list. Keep scrolling. Okay, I think I'm getting close. I remember some of that Hitchhiker's Guide music I put on here right around that time. I'll let it load one more time, and then I'll do a search and see if I missed it.
I pretty much always listen to Doctor Who music passively at first, so unless I've rewatched the episode recently, I'm not gonna remember specific songs. I might recognize it on a replay, but there's no way it's gonna just pop into my mind.
There we go. I did pass it by. Chromophone Band from Macroterror. That one, that really weird but catchy one. That's just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's still catchy stuff from back then. It's just maybe not as pre-planned to be a catchy theme, but they still manage to do it once in a while. But yeah, lately, I don't know. Maybe since Goldsmith left, it's just been like I've been hard pressed to really enjoy any of the music.
You know what?
It's been
I don't
okay.
think they've
It's never been
announced.
terrible, but it's been like not exactly above adequate either.
I don't think we have any idea who the composer is for Series 14 yet.
That's
they
true.
said
Have they
whether the
ever
current
stated officially
person
if
is sticking, or?
I heard rumors that they might be getting Goldsmith back, but only rumors.
Yeah, only rumors that I've heard.
Hmm.
I mean, RTD's been bringing a lot of people back, so I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I would
But I
not be
also
shocked.
like the
And
idea
he's had a
of,
long enough vacation from it too.
I like the idea of bringing in new people because if it's just everybody from 2005 to 2009, then that means when RTD leaves again, there's going to be nobody left. Everyone's going to go with him, and it's just the show's going to end. So I'd rather a good mix of old and new people.
No, I mean, like, I think I've even said it before. Is like, it's not even necessarily down to the composer's either bad or uninspired or whatever. It could just be a matter of Chibnall's not very good at saying, "I want this kind of music."
Yeah,
Or
it
something
could
like
be that
that.
they don't have a very
Whereas
good direction.
Whereas if the current composer was working with RTD, then RTD is very theme heavy oriented.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, Russell is definitely very theme heavy, very theme oriented, and which probably gave a lot of good direction for Goldsmith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Chibnall might have intentionally wanted more subdued music than his predecessors, but
That hasn't been to his benefit, if anything.
yeah, people will just look at it as I don't remember any tracks, and therefore the show sucks. And sometimes that's for certain people, that's literally the entire extent of their nuance.
I don't remember any tracks that fall mediocre.
All right. It sounds like that's it for this piece. Is that?
Yep.
I think. Yep.
No, that's about it.
Yeah.
If you're interested, there it is. I don't know. It's not particularly gripping me.
So moving on from that to Big Finish, as far as new releases go, we have released on the 22nd was Torchwood Death in Venice, written by James Goss and starring Sophie Aldred and Paul Clayton, which, given that title, I'm a bit wary of what that would entail, given the story that has the same name.
Looking at that background, are those the Clockwork androids?
They might. They look similar.
They look damn similar to them. That could be interesting because I've been always wondering what would have happened to them after that.
Right. If you told me a returning monster was appearing in Venice, I would have asked if it was the vampire fish people again. But yeah, it certainly could be the aliens from Deep, or the androids from Deep Breath.
Deep Breath?
Yeah, those are the Clockwork ones you mean, right?
No, from
Girl in the Fireplace.
Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh, but they were on a spaceship.
So what? They could also punch holes through time.
But I mean, those I think are the. I thought those were the same ones from Deep Breath, though.
Not that I'm aware of.
Ah.
I'm trying to remember ones from Deep Breath. Here, let me tab out. Back over to this one again. Deep Breath.
Oh, that's
Clockwork.
Nah, that's very different. That was still very human.
Yeah, those. No, not
looking.
those.
Okay.
Yeah, those are definitely not the ones I was thinking of. Although you're correct in thinking they're Clockwork-ish, but yeah, not the ones I was thinking of.
Of course, that also kind of fits because the masks those robots wore were already very sort of Venetian style masks anyway.
Yeah.
True, but different region. But whereas the Clockwork from Deep Breath were they were basically like implants to like British people, whereas the ones we're looking at were like the full-on fancy get-up ball gown face mask things sort of stuff, which is what these look like again.
But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time Ace has headlined a Torchwood story. Or been in one that I know of.
Yeah,
which I guess they figured their original audio character wasn't enough to headline a story on his own, which I kind of agree with. But to be fair, I haven't really been following the Torchwood audios. Maybe the people who have been really like the character. I have no idea. Obviously, everyone's going to buy a story with Ace on it, though. So
yeah, if nothing else, Ace will just boost that sales chance.
I wonder how much of this is intentional. We have the centenary coming. Last week we covered 10th Doctor Classic Companions. Today we're covering Ace in Torchwood. Like I feel like some of that was planned.
Quite possibly. They might have been aware of some of the plans ahead of time and were like, here, let's get these people in early so we can plan an audio in advance so that they can kind of sort of tie into what's going to happen.
Right. we find out that this is actually a prequel that explains how Ace showed up in the Centenary special.
how Ace shows up back on Earth and decides to join Torchwood or Unit or whatever.
Right. Yeah, she shows up at Unit HQ as the leader of Torchwood, and we have to listen to this to find out how. I doubt it because Doctor Who is never that good at interconnecting things, but it would be funny.
Yeah. It'd also just generally be kind of weird if they did try that, because mostly they like ignore Big Finish.
Well, yeah. If anything, it would be Chibnall had the idea first. And then Torchwood, and then Big Finish was like, hey, can we use it too?
We can help tie it together for you in an audio that the people don't need to listen to unless they really want to. And he's like, okay.
Chibnall would be like, tie it together? Is that something you can do with Doctor Who?
Continuity? What's that? Smack.
All right, and then one more.
What brings your fans back to Egghead.
And then one more Big Finish.
One more Big Finish.
On the 27th, we saw the release of Unbound, Doctor of War 2 Destiny, written by Nigel Fairs, Lizzie Hopley, and Tim Foley, starring Colin Baker, Jeffrey Beavers, and Louise Jameson.
Would have had the news all done a day ahead of time if it weren't for you meddling Unbound doctors.
And additionally, in other sci-fi fantasy news, we got an announcement for Deadpool 3, which will apparently see the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Yeah, that part's interesting. Also, the fact that it looks like this is going to be the first story of Phase 6, I believe, right? Thunderbolts ends Phase 5, right? Not Phase 4?
Well, if this is coming out next year, that would technically be within...
The year after.
Phase... Oh, right. Year after.
So I think Deadpool 3 is actually going to be the kicker. Maybe not plot-wise, but in terms of releases for Phase 6. Because it comes right before Fantastic Four.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts are in 2024, as is Fantastic Four. Phase 6 will apparently begin with Fantastic Four.
It was, but then this got announced for 2 months before that.
Right. Which means either it's going to be a weird... Yeah. Which either means it's technically going to count as the end of Phase 5 or the beginning of Phase 6 instead.
Just consider it the middle ground that just popped in there and just be what it is. Because it's Deadpool.
Yeah. I still mostly joke that it seems like a waste that the Fantastic Four didn't debut in Phase 4, but oh well. Like,
they announced They
Especially
announced
'cause,
Fantastic
like,
Four was coming at the beginning of Phase 4, but then...
Right. I don't think they ever said that it was going to be in, just that they were actually working on it.
Oh, no, yeah, they just stuck a
Yeah.
Fantastic Four logo at the end of the Phase 4 trailer.
Right. Although it's just the phases are very weird to me now because the other phases felt like they lasted longer, and now we're getting through 3 phases in like a much
2
shorter
years.
span of time. Yeah, like seemingly phase 6 is just going to be a year. The way this works.
Yeah, I think it was a year and a half last time I looked at it.
Yeah, which is like, what? Like, I would almost kind of like at that point, it's like, why? That seems so weird to me that they want to crank through that so quickly.
Yeah,
And there are apparently only going to be 4 movies in it now, because there was originally only going to be 3, but now we've got,
well,
at
I
least
mean,
as far as
it's most
3
of them just aren't
announced.
announced yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess 3 announced, to be fair, and now 4. So
Like, there's no way
That's-
they're going to be like, well, is there a Falcon movie? Is there, they're not going to announce the next Spider-Man movie yet.
right, yeah. Especially with all the stuff going on with Sony anyway.
But yeah, the other interesting thing about this one, of course, is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, which on one hand makes perfect sense if it is a multiverse story. And of course, Deadpool doesn't even need to be a multiverse story to be a multiverse story. Like he referenced 2 versions of Professor X in Deadpool 1, I want to say.
I think it was Dead. Yes, it was.
Was it 1? I
It was.
would have thought
It
it was 2. I
was.
haven't seen 2
Yeah.
yet.
There's an offhand. There's an offhand comment in 1 about is this McCoy or
Yeah, that
it?
was what I was thinking. Yeah,
And we see McCoy.
that was Colossus appeared in the first one.
Yeah, and we see the First Class era cast in a throwaway couple of seconds in Deadpool 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's also be fair here. Deadpool, even before he became a mutant in number 1, made offhand reference to the fact that he was Green Lantern.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It doesn't even need to be a true multiverse story to be a multiverse story.
Let's just picture that the costume is in
There's
CGI
no fourth wall.
or green.
Yeah, green or animated.
What you
but
gonna do next? Sew my mouth shut? That's the other Deadpool.
But yeah, considering the fact that everyone's expecting them to recast all of the mutants, and that Hugh Jackman has been playing Wolverine longer than longer than half the MCU fans have been alive at this point.
True.
It would definitely be weird for this to be the announcement that Hugh Jackman will be the MCU Wolverine. Which makes me think it's just going to be for this movie.
Yeah, this is just going to be like their multiverse movie, which will explain how Deadpool kind of sort of falls into MCU now.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to involve him literally walking through a studio and being like, "Oh yeah, this is the Fox studio. Okay, I'm gonna walk through the sound stage, say hi to Kevin Feige. All right, now I'm at the Marvel studio. Roll cameras." Like I kind of expect that to be like the cold open.
As much as that would work, I actually expect more of a he walks through a door, you hear a whoom, and he looks around and just goes, "What the fuck? Did I just switch studios?" Just looks down the long corridor. Holy shit! I think we did. We got budget. And looks the other way. Holy hell! Does this mean I can't swear anymore? Dang it!
Yeah, he tests if he can still swear. But allegedly Feige has confirmed this will be R-rated, so...
Holy shit, they aren't censoring me. Disney, are you really doing this?
he would be like, wait, is this Disney or Touchstone?
Oh, you smart little bastards.
I do wonder if this means that they are finally going to get around to introducing the new labeling that they're going to apparently be doing for all the R-rated ones. And if this means
the new
Blade
Marvel
is gonna
Studio label that
factor
that's going to
into
be
that.
under.
Yeah. Because apparently they were maybe gonna do that with Blade, but I don't think they are anymore. Especially because I think is Blade still getting a movie or is it just a TV show?
PG-13 movie, I believe.
Ah, boo.
Yes, agreed.
Ooh. Neutered.
Come
Neutered.
on.
Give me the actual horror in my horror movies, damn you.
Mm.
That being said, there have
I
been a
guess-
few good PG-13 horror movies. Has anyone else here seen what was that?
I guess arguably Blade 2 was good, and that was like toned down from the first
anyone
one.
else here seen The Conjuring? Because that was a PG-13 actually.
Yeah, but that was
not.
more creepy than
It wasn't like
Like-
the normal jump scares, and to be fair, it was actually really good
Yeah.
until they just started throwing the witch at us, and I'm like, oh, now you just made it lame.
I
But
guess
It was more
in a-
freaky
in
when
a
you
way,
didn't see the ghost.
this is supposed to be a bloody action horror movie.
yeah.
Very
Also, I guess
different
it's-
from The Conjuring.
I guess it also depends on the director they get. Like if they get a horror-ish director to do it, who will push it about as far as they can go within the rating, it might work. Like, I guess thinking of more like family/kid-friendly horror. I remember seeing The House with a Clock in Its Walls, and that was a fucking oh my god, Amblin Entertainment movie directed by Eli Roth. So it was done by the guy who did Cabin in the Woods. Oh, sorry, not Cabin in the Woods. Fucking
Hostel.
Cabin Fever. That's what I was thinking of.
Cabin Fever and Hostel. Okay.
Yeah, like they had him do a kid-friendly horror, but because it's Eli Roth, he pushes it about as far as he can get away with. So it's like it actually works and it's actually a good movie. So it was like, wow, okay. So if they did something like that where they got like a horror director to do it, then it could probably work. Or just a director who's gonna actually push it and not a director that's gonna play it safe.
Well, yeah, they need a director who's going to push it too far, and that way, when they whittle it back, it's still going to be effective.
Or just
Do
generally
the
a
opposite
director
of
who's
what
gonna
Friday
not-
the 13th movies did in the 80s when they got neutered. Like, they pushed it as far as they were going to intend to go, and then they got completely cut back. Instead, what you need to do is you need to push it a step further. Then when they cut it back, it's not going to seem so bad. Wait till you see this kid's head get crushed in Act 3.
Honestly, I kind of wonder if they're just going to use Deadpool 3 as like a sort of test run to see, okay, can a Deadpool movie under us do well? And if it does do as well as the first one did, and probably the second one, I forget if the second one did better than the first one.
I'm not sure if the second one did better, but I do recall the second one still did really well, and it helps that it had a second release under that Christmas version.
Yeah. So, like, if they're just going to use the Deadpool thing to test the waters, and if that works, then they're going to be like, okay, cool, go nuts. And they'll, like, do...
They definitely need something like
future
Deadpool to
Blade
push
movie
the
like
envelope
that.
so that they can stop pulling punches and start actually getting to the bigger, slightly messier characters. Because I want my goddamn Ghost Rider, you sons of bitches, and do him right this time. I swear to freaking God, if you make a third botched movie, I'm going to punch someone in the studio. I'm so
to be
frustrated. My
fair-
favorite hero has still gotten 0 good movies.
To be fair, I feel like, for the most part, the big criticism Marvel movies usually get now are that the villains are off in some cases rather than the heroes. So,
Yeah, there've been some villains that have not gotten a chance to have a lot of character lately, for sure.
Mm.
And then you
Whereas,
get Christian Bale, who at times seemed like he was playing the Joker. I'm still not quite sure what was up with that particular performance. Like he seemed like he was in a different movie from everybody else.
Which movie was this?
Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay, I
yeah.
haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, Gore the God Butcher, who definitely seemed like he was, uh, yeah, jokery at times. Then again, I think any comic book villain, if you turn the dial up far enough, they become the Joker,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
which is what happened to the Riddler and Two-Face.
Yeah.
We should probably move on to Geek Talk, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've lingered on this a bit.
All right. So, yes, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, Harley Quinn season 3 ended. And I had completely forgotten that it was the end of a season. I think I first talked about it when I'd gotten to when season 3 started, which was when I binged the first 2 seasons. So season 3 is focusing. It's the one. It's the full. I am not able to talk right now. Apparently, but it is
Focus.
the first season with Harley and Ivy as a couple. It's got a few serialized plots. It has Commissioner Gordon and the Joker running against each other for mayor. It has. I'm trying not to spoil, but it does have Bruce Wayne kind of starting a zombie apocalypse. And giving any more context to that would be where the spoilers start to come in.
Huh.
On one hand, I kind of, I'm not sure I like it as much as parts of the first 2 seasons. And I think that's because the supporting characters are kind of not supporting as much anymore. Like King Shark is kind of going off and doing his own thing more often. Clayface is kind of really focused on his own subplot, so he's not really helping everybody out as much. So it really just comes down to pretty much just Harley and Ivy, plus whoever the given episode tends to focus on. And I think that weakens it compared to seasons 1 and 2. That said, of course, literally everybody who's a fan of Harley Quinn, once from when the show started, was waiting for Harley and Ivy to be a couple. So that aspect of the plot, which was always the one plot that they played seriously, those 2 characters as seriously as you can with a character like Harley Quinn. That plot is done well. Some very interesting scenes, some of which that may be coded or maybe I'm reading too much into them. But yeah, they so it's good show. No, it's yeah, I definitely did not write down any thoughts, so I'm kind of just cobbling this together weeks after watching the season finale, which is not great. But yeah, it's a good show. If you're a fan of the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy characters, you'll still enjoy the season. I just don't think it's quite as high as some of the others. That said, it definitely got some good laughs out of me. It's not like it's a bad season by any means. And that's it for that.
Okie doke.
And I actually need to step away for a few minutes. So.
Alrighty. So Splatoon 3.
Yep. It came out like what, 2 weeks ago now, I think.
I know some of the
and
VTuber
I've been
girls
like,
I occasionally watch have been getting into it again, so that's all I know.
And it's funny because the main issue with it so far as multiplayer goes, is just that the connection issues are worse than the previous 2 games somehow. And all I can really assume is that the problem is that the player base is too large. Because
maybe
this is currently the best-selling Switch title so far. It sold more in 3 days than any other major Switch title did in that span of time. Like, no other Switch game that I've seen sold more than, like, none of the other ones sold 2 million in 3 days, and this sold 2 million copies in 3 days worldwide. So
That being said, you'd think there'd be enough servers by now to help with that.
See, that's the thing. I don't think they even technically have servers, because the way I remember it,
that might be half the issue then too.
Yeah, it's usually done, from how I can remember, console to console.
Yeah. And so when you get somebody with a garbage connection, everybody just suffers.
To a point, like, basically, if anyone has shitty internet, you're gonna notice it on their end at least. And that being said, there are a lot of changes that are very welcome. When you launch into the game, after like the first time, you used to have to, every time the rotation of maps would change for multiplayer, you would have to sit through a news segment showing you the updated maps in the first game. Then in the second game, every time you launched up the game, you'd have to, but every time after that, unless this specific mode came into play again, you wouldn't have to. Now, you can just choose to skip it entirely and let it play in the background, which was like, oh, thank God. Like, people were really hoping for that, and then sure enough, they fucked around with that and made that happen. I think like now it's only the special event things that you can't skip the news for, but even then, that's only when you load into the game and like halfway through the events.
As long as
which
it's
is
only
kind of
something
funny
new,
as
and
well.
as long as it's like at least semi understandable why.
Like, there's generally been a lot of. It's kind of funny because as much as I saw some people say that it feels exactly the same as the last game, it's more so that I don't think any of the changes have been major, at least not necessarily feeling major, so much as they've been a lot of smaller quality of life changes. And like, as I feel like I did see some people say that the graphics don't look all that different, and it's like, they look noticeably better to me, but even if it's not like a gigantic upgrade, because it's Nintendo and they're usually more about stylized stuff anyway, which, to be fair, I prefer at this point, because goddamn, some PS4 games and that look like absolute shit because they go for realism and they can't do it. But even then, I played through the story mode and finally got that done prior to this weekend, which was good because they had an event this weekend. And my God, the story mode this time around takes inspiration from the paid DLC for the last game, which was story related. And the story DLC last time was completely different to the base game's story. So this time around, they've taken inspiration from that. It's not a carbon copy, but it's inspired by the fact that that went over really well. So they went, okay,
so
we'll
they're
do.
like, yeah, let's take the good points of this thing, and now let's make that the new main story.
So there's a lot of like, God, I'm glad that I could stream it so I can like preserve to a point some frustrating moments I had, because there are points where I wanted to throw my controller at the TV because I regret saying that, like, well, the story mode's harder than the old story modes, but it's easier than Octo Expansion, which is the paid DLC for the second game. And my God, some of those levels were probably on par with some of the DLC, some of the Octo expansion ones. Because fuck, like, I like really just wanted to strangle someone at some points because it was just so annoying. And like, I could usually admit it's just a matter of my aim being terrible, but or like just I'm not good with certain weapons that they wanted me to do it through when I was trying to 100% story mode.
All right.
Rather than just doing the usual thing. But yeah, it's
yeah.
worth playing through, but if people are gonna, I would suggest just not trying to 100% it unless you
really are hell bent.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good. I would suggest people like God knows there are people who waited for this because people told them and I told people like Splatoon 2's like been out for way too long. Just wait for Splatoon 3 because it got announced like a year ago or so. But yeah, I would definitely say this is worth checking out if people want it. It's like if
Especially
people
you wait
want to
past
get into
2
it.
to wait for 3, yeah.
Yeah. There are enough, especially this is definitely the best introductory game to the franchise by virtue of the fact that a lot of those quality of life changes were made.
So I will briefly mention my experience, which is again mostly watching VTubers. In particular, I've mostly seen clips from HoloLive girls playing, and their reactions range from "can't stop laughing" to one of the girls like clicking her controller so loud you can literally hear every button press out of her rage over her microphone, even though it's literally like a microphone right by her face, and her friend is even listening and like, "Are you okay? I can hear every button push." Okay.
Yeah, like
at one point, a group of I believe 4 of them actually tried to all play sniper because they all just unlocked the sniper gun, and literally like one of them got more than 1 kill. And literally she's just like, "What are you all doing? Stop! You need to stop this. If you can't use the weapon, please don't use it."
Like if it's turf war, which is the general thing, which is more about covering area, then it doesn't matter as much because there's no real consequences to that, to losing that.
But
that
it did focus on number of people taken down, so it's probably that particular play style is how many people you've taken out. I'm not sure what mode that would be, but yeah.
Oh, that might have been. No, actually, no, it wouldn't have been Salmon Run because that one you've only got very specific weapon choices. But, it generally the main thing that I'm happy for is that ranked mode got rid of deranking.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice for a lot of people. To be fair.
Now you have to earn points in a version of ranked that you can cash in to potentially rank up. And if you fail,
Here
you
I
just
was afraid
suck
when
at
I
that
came
rank.
back you'd be done with the summary already.
No, we've kind of gone into a side tangent.
Yeah.
We're in a side tangent waiting for you.
Yeah. But in any case, Splatoon 3 has been enjoyable so far. The internet issues that were there, like, right near the start aren't as bad now a week later, so maybe the patch they did has helped a bit, but just took a while to help. I know some people have said that it's been worse.
Probably depends on region.
For them after that. But yeah, like, I think especially the irony is after the event they did, I've had less issues. So I don't know what happened there, but hopefully that keeps up because this is on its way to probably being one of the highest selling Switch games so far. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that done, it's time for a summary.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
So it's you again?
Yep.
So back to Alex. All right, whenever you're ready.
Yep. I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Okay, we open on a meteor seemingly crashing into Earth, with Sarah Jane and company investigating, only for a mysterious woman to show up and sort the situation out herself. Then decide to track her down, only for her to turn out to live down the road anyway. But she kicks him out after only really learning her name, Ruby White. Sarah Jane opts to leave Ruby alone for now, despite keeping track of her anyway. But something now seems off about Sarah Jane, especially after a memory lapse she has, thinking Luke was still at home and leaving a front door wide open. And then giving Clyde a gun to use when Mr. Smith informs of an incoming invasion of aliens known as the Dark Horde. Sarah Jane's plan backfires to sort out the Dark Horde, as she forgot to bring the Sonic lipstick with her, only for Ruby White to conveniently show up and save them and deal with the Dark Horde herself. After this, Sarah Jane gets Mr. Smith to scan her, and it seems her mind is starting to deteriorate, which leads to her making rash decisions like giving over everything to Ruby. As a result, Ruby finally gives the game away and turns on Sarah Jane, kidnapping her and revealing herself to be an alien from a species called Katesh, who feed on the souls of other living beings to survive. After making Ronnie and Clyde assume Sarah Jane had really left, Clyde refuses to accept it, only to realize Ruby is to blame and gets trapped on Ruby's ship, which was originally her prison until she modified it, with Mr. White being a modified game console. Finally, Luke shows up, and together with K9's help, they realize Clyde's in space and that this must all be Ruby's doing, coming up with a plan to reset Mr. White, Ruby's AI, and get control back of Mr. Smith while Clyde passes out due to lack of oxygen. However, Ronnie's distraction works, and K9 is able to disable Mr. White and reset him, and get Mr. Smith back online, teleporting Clyde back to the attic. Clyde and Ronnie manage to get to Sarah Jane, but Ruby stops her escape, only for Luke to show up and make Mr. White send holograms across the entire globe of the meteor strikes, which results in way too much for Ruby to absorb and ends up deflating her stomach, giving Sarah Jane all of her health and energy back. Sarah Jane then sends Ruby back to her prison ship, who swears revenge as it gets sent off into the sun, seemingly, or just generally out of space. Yeah. And we end on Sarah Jane thanking the kids for their help and taking them and Luke out to dinner as a treat and a well-deserved night off. The end.
2 minutes, 58 seconds.
I realized at one point, I'm describing way too much. I should probably try to narrow some of this down.
You did a pretty good job of that.
The first episode of this story hits hard, considering that it was broadcast right before Elizabeth Sladen's health started to go down.
Before it actually did start to slip, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
God.
This was the last.
I was like this. I was like, this looks way too realistic, considering how long she had to live afterward.
Yeah, this was the last story to air before she died, so...
Oh, really?
Which
I see her health started to deteriorate shortly after this aired. It really was the last one that aired?
The last one that aired prior to her...
Oh, yeah, because this was the season finale, right?
Yeah.
So that's right. So the next season would not have aired before she died. Yeah, you're right.
So, and it was also why the next series was only
never finished. Yeah.
Yeah, it was only, and I think it only ended up being half done by virtue of the fact that she died during production.
Mm-hmm.
So we only got 3 stories instead of 6.
Yep.
And I think even then, one of them was probably a matter of they probably tweaked it.
Oh, very
so
likely, yeah.
So they could finish it off properly.
I would not be shocked if we get to the final episode of the run and she's barely in it.
Yeah, it's basically like leftover footage from a totally different script or a similar enough script that they just rewrote the bits in between to make it tie together.
What does that remind me of that I watched recently?
So many movies like that, sadly.
Why the hell? I feel like it was very recent that I watched it, but I don't remember. But there was something where wait. It's like on the tip of my brain. Oh well, if I think of it, I'll say it. If not, then I won't. Oh, that's what is the final episode of Archer that included
Oh, his mother.
when the because she died either during or before they made that episode. So they used, like, she barely spoke in the episode, and every time she did, it was reused lines that she had said previously. That's what that's what the conversation reminds me of. All right, so on to what we liked, starting with Matt.
What we liked, starting with me. Actually, I have to look up her name again. I have it ready here. The actress that played, dang it, I can't even remember the character's name now. Ruby White.
Ruby White.
The actress that played Ruby White. First of all, very good, like on-off switch acting when she needed it. Which just lends a lot of credibility to the interesting parts of that character. When it suddenly, and to some people, maybe very obviously, turns villain.
She was played by Julie Graham.
Yes, she was played by Julie Graham, and did you know that she's also been parts of other bits of Doctor Who?
Not really
on her page now. I see she did audios.
She's done at least
and
3 or 4 audios.
And that she did a character. Oh, she was in the in series 12. Okay.
Yes, she was also one of the human survivors from Ascension of the Cybermen and Timeless Children. So she was one of the good parts of that story. She was one of the good parts of that story, but sadly probably got killed too. So.
But yeah, she did have quite a range in this. Like her first time on screen, I was like, "Oh shit, is this another River song?" And then she ended up like being like a really enjoyable character, and then she had her heel turn.
Then she had that really remarkable heel turn, as you can see the mask slowly slipping every time Sarah Jane looks away. It's like, oh shit. But yeah, as I kept seeing close-ups of her, I kept blinking and going, I think I know this actress from somewhere. Looked it up, and I'm looking through her list of credentials. I'm like, nope. Doctor Who, wait, what? Oh, she was one of the survivors from one of the good parts of some of the recent seasons. Okay. So she's had some time on Doctor Who not too long ago, and she's also been on a number of audio adventures. I don't think we've listened to any of them yet, but she's in 4 of them.
Yeah, the Year of Martha Jones ones. Oh yeah, the main range and
a couple of Year of Martha Jones, Bernice Summerfield, and one main range. So she's been getting around in Doctor Who a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's where my brain was clicking. All right, interesting. Then this was her first appearance, so also interesting in of itself. So good on her.
Well, yeah, and in hindsight, that's kind of funny because normally actors would go the other way. They'd be on Doctor Who first in some respect, and then
do like the spin-offs. Yeah, instead she's gone in reverse.
Yeah. Very I guess in that way, the funny thing is she has that in common with oh my god, Bradley Walsh, who played Graham.
Oh yeah, he appeared on Sarah Jane first.
The reverse hat trick. the reverse Doctor Who hat trick. Instead of going from Doctor Who to cameos, you go from cameos to Doctor Who.
All right, Alex, what did you like about the story?
I like that as much as it. Oh God, wow. I guess very fitting for this episode. I'm kind of blanking.
Oof.
I guess I just, I guess it was like I'm just kind of going between shit. What did I actually want to go with? Do I want to go for obvious ones or? I guess I'm gonna go with just Elizabeth Sladen's acting, because like at first it's almost a bit. Well, this does seem a bit off, and then like once the reveal of what's happening comes through, it is like, oh, okay, yeah,
Right.
So it is
Okay.
that she's being messed with.
But one says Ruby, one says Sarah Jane.
Um,
Fitting.
Bill, what's your favorite?
So I liked that it didn't blow in the middle like I thought it was going to. I thought, like, because a lot of stories like this, and of course the format helps with that. A lot of stories like this, like there will be the heel turn, the audience will figure it out, and then you have to wait 20 minutes for the characters to figure it out. And like there was like 5 minutes between, or maybe 10 at the most, from the audience figuring out that Ruby was, not what she seemed, to everybody being on the same page and knowing that. So there was
Probably
really
closer to 5, yeah.
There was only what was really needed. As soon as it became obvious she was duping Sarah Jane, things moved like lightning until it got to the point where everybody was trying to stop her. And I appreciated that because, like I said, so many stories like this, they'll think you need an extra 20 minutes of suspense in the middle. That just slows it down. And we didn't need the suspense, and it was fine without it.
Yeah.
Didn't need it, and the show knew where exactly to go from the midpoint.
And if they had bloated that out, then we would have gotten half the amount of time with Luke and K9 as well.
Yes. So speaking of, since we're done with our favorites, can I just say, Luke coming back, was he doing other acting on the side?
I think so.
Because I can see like the new intensity in him in this one particular. Like even his quiet moments, but when he's staring down the enemy, you can tell he's been taking some acting lessons a little bit on the side, and is almost kind of re-preaching some Sarah Jane lines back. And it's like, ooh, yes.
He's only been gone for I think a couple episodes at this point, but it's really as if he were an old character coming back a season or two later. Like with the way he acts, yeah.
Yeah, and he's clicking very well. It's been long enough that it's been short enough that he still knows the character, but long enough that he's gained some new momentum.
Yeah, it's been short enough that he's still part of the opening spiel before the title.
Right, yeah.
So, all right. So, least favorite then, I guess, which goes back to me.
Right.
I have to say, I think it was pretty obvious from moment one when mysterious person shows up, suddenly, air quotes, saves the day, and then immediately runs off without trying to explain themselves. Already suspicious. Suspicious AF.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, they pointed out that's exactly what Sarah Jane does every time.
To quote the kids, not even Sarah Jane even sticks around for at least a little bit to make sure everything's all right and then goes. And usually she goes before anyone else is even there. And she doesn't stay around just long enough to gloat, then run away. She usually is gone before anyone is there, period. Because she doesn't want her name on the list, you know?
Yeah.
Enough people who need to know already know.
Right.
Whereas this gal just runs in, gloats long enough for them to see her, and then runs off in the vehicle, and I'm just going, sus alert. Whee!
Yeah.
I guess in that respect, that's also why Sarah Jane treated her as suspicious right from the get-go.
Yes,
And it
she-
wasn't
Yeah.
it
she
wasn't
was not
until like
wrong.
the next day in universe that any attitudes changed, and by then that was part of like the manipulation and the 5D holograms and whatever.
Yep. Very much.
Actually, it wasn't until Ruby quote unquote saved their lives that they started to like each other. So
And even then, she was already starting to manipulate things just so Sarah Jane was acting a bit off
Right.
course. So
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
That's
Alex,
fine. So yep.
I guess I don't know. It's one of those things where like I still kind of scratch my head about the reveal. I mean, like, to be fair, she goes on about, it took me a long, long time, so probably like God knows how old the character actually is to convert all this stuff, but it's like I converted a game system and essentially like a VR room or something into both I converted my prison into a spaceship, and I converted this game system into like this high-tech AI thing that can do some Mr. Smith type stuff, and I'm
it
just
was
kind of
always
like,
To be
a
fair,
high-tech
she
AI,
also-
it just did different things.
To be fair, she also
Yeah.
mentioned she visited multiple plants, so as she was taking over those
Right.
plants, she was probably borrowing
I mean-
tech to further enhance her tech.
right.
I guess
but it was
that makes me wonder what can you do with a PS5?
Real world missile command.
I mean, wasn't there? I think this was a rumor. I don't know if there was any truth to it, but I remember hearing something about like ISIS or something had like stockpiled a whole bunch of PS4s to steal the processors and use the processors in like missiles or something.
I'm not sure about missiles, but probably using them for like bombs, etc. Would not
Right.
surprise me.
Mm.
And other
Um.
other weird things that they would put together with that kind of tech, as long as they had the money for it.
Mm.
Yeah, and that would
Right.
probably be in some
Yeah.
regards, that's probably the cheapest way to buy those processors is to buy those systems.
Mm.
And I guess just generally like the whole, they left me alone with a game system and I modified that. It's like the character seems a bit old for that to make much sense. Like, yeah, it's a kid show, so like turning a game system into all this shit is like, yeah. But that seems more like something that a kid villain would do. I don't know, like a kid genius.
To be
villain,
fair, it seems a bit silly, but at the same time, it's definitely understandable because there's definitely been on and off fears about what the tech inside of a game system can do. I vaguely remember some sort of rumors about legitimately hacking things a lot easier with like a combination of PlayStation 2s back in the day, and I'm like, okay.
but
Yeah, I would say like the completely taking over Mr. Smith is the most questionable thing it does. I can easily believe anything else because like a 5D video game, yeah, I could believe alien invaders and meteors and everything else. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Completely controlling an alien intelligence.
It's
It's
very questionable, but at the same time, she's wiped out apparently multiple worlds, so she's had a lot of tech to sift through. So as questionable as it
True.
is, it's not completely impossible yet again.
Yeah, you might assume that she didn't do that right away on the first planet she landed on.
Yeah, most likely not. Most likely she laid low a lot longer on her first planet, and then just kind of took bits and bobs as she ate.
Yeah. Like, it's generally not like a story breaking thing, but it's still just like
It is not. Yeah, it's not universal breaking, but it is kind of a slight immersion break.
yeah.
But
I mean, again,
also
it's one of
your
those
mileage
things
may
of, like,
vary.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things of like the show showing it's a kid's show, so it's like, one of those things if kids aren't really gonna care. But as a 31-year-old, I'm kind of like, huh?
Mhm.
I'd say in tech, I see where this is going.
So maybe one of those few times that it talks down to the audience is how you see it.
Well, not
Not
so
even
much talking down to the audience so much as like
Overly simplified villain.
leaning
Mhm.
leaning into the kids show aspect a bit.
And to be honest, leaning into that aspect being childish compared to some of the other shit going on, I mean, we could do with a little bit of that.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like, it's not as bad as some other instances of Sarah Jane Adventures leaning a bit too much into being a kid's show, but yeah.
But what I'm saying is the kid showy bits with that tech is at least helping throw off a bit of the we're all gonna fucking die stuff going on. So it's almost kind of
Okay.
necessary. But anyways, yeah. So
So I'm gonna go with the fact that this was something I talked about in K9 in one episode as well. But they do that weird thing where they shoot the characters as if they weren't on set together, and to make you think that like they're cobbling together footage, because people couldn't be in the same room. But then there are photos of them where yes, they were definitely in the same room together. They just shot and edited it super weird to make it look like Luke and Ronnie and whatever were not in the same set, and then all of a sudden they were on the same set. So it's like almost like it's almost like they sabotaged their own footage, and it's really weird. And
I
maybe
don't recall any of that, but okay, I'll take your word
it's
on
like
it.
I imagine people who haven't like done editing would never notice. But the whole time when Luke is like when Luke confronts Ruby, like you only see Ruby from the back, and it looks like they're using her stunt double.
Oh,
And it's like for a while, Luke is never in the same scene with, or is it the same? You can't see Luke and anybody else's face at the same time. And then at the very end of the scene, he runs forward and he's in the same shot with everybody else. Finally, and you're like, why? Why did you make it look like he was on a different set then?
I'm wondering if maybe he had a limited time frame and he had to get his shots done with
Could be,
Ruby
yeah.
as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because you
And he
notice
had a
that
very limited time that he could spend with the other crew, with the other cast members, rather.
Yeah, because you notice the sort of finale bit in the attic. He's not there, but then he's down at the car
Yeah.
for the final shot.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if he had a finite amount of time where he was available to join the main cast, whereas he had more time available to shoot opposite of Ruby for their shots that needed to
So you
get
think
done.
maybe like he did a few scenes on green screen and then a few scenes with the cast, and that was all he had time for?
I'm not necessarily
Probably.
green screen, more like he had time when the other cast members couldn't be there. Like maybe some of his younger castmates that around his same age were busy with like school or something, but they were supposed to all be there as according to the script, but they couldn't get them all there, so they had to shoot around them a bit. And then when they had a limited time where they were all there, they shot what they could as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And that would also make sense, like if he was also filming for his other show, which
Yeah, if he was
what
also
would
on
it
another
have
show or
been?
other things too. So yeah.
I think at this point he was still just doing like bit parts and other stuff because the other recurring
What year was
role.
this? This was 2010. 2010.
I think so. The other, yeah, like the other like recurring role that he took on didn't happen until after Sarah Jane Adventures ended. So mostly he was just doing bit parts.
Okay, so
and other
maybe
stuff.
maybe it was going to university or something.
Yeah, I think he actually did stop to do like university and maybe do a little bit of acting training.
Yeah, which generally seems to be like the thing with the kid actors in this. I think is that they were all basic. Like when they leave, it was basically, for the most part, I think. Well, not for the most part, but I definitely think in Tommy Knight's case it was education. But it also might have just been like figured that he'd done all he could do with Luke, so it was like better to just move on, sort of a thing. And I think it also might have just been that they wanted to like not have the kids get too old, but also still technically trying to play high school students, which is why they were trying. I think.
So you think they didn't want them to be Tom Holland and Zendaya?
Right. I think like I actually think that next season, next series, we see the end of Ronnie, and it's Clyde and a new girl. I could be wrong, but I think the idea is that they were going to phase out Clyde and Ronnie over time and bring in new kids, but Elizabeth Sladen died, so that never
never needed to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I definitely know they bring in a new kid. But, yeah.
Hard to say, but yeah, that could have been the direction they may have been going in.
Right. All right, so now we go on to favorite scenes, starting with Matt.
Favorite scene. Couple of really decent ones, but the one that struck me as the most Sarah Jane moment out of Luke is when he literally barged into that basement and literally warned Ruby one more time, "You're going to leave, or I'm going to stop you right now." And of course, the usual villain attitude.
That's a very Doctor thing as well.
She obviously picked it up from the Doctor.
For sure.
Yeah.
The Doctor was always one more chance. This is your final warning kind of moment.
Especially the Doctor under RTD, who was still in charge of the show.
Yep. So it's very much the Sarah Jane learned from the Doctor, and Luke is now officially learned from Sarah Jane as he's giving that one more intense "you leave now or I'll stop you" moment, and pushes the button, Frank. Or in this case, push the button, K9. Boop.
Which Luke, push the button, K9. K9, push the button, Mr. White.
Yes, K9. Boop. Kind of reminds me of actually Dragon Ball Bridge. Kami, tell Mr. Popo. Yes, Mr. Popo, here's what you're supposed to do. Okay, Kami. Actually, Kami, why am I here?
I was thinking this scene. Give the order, Zarbon. Give the order, Dodoria.
No, I love the back and forth chain between Popo, Kami, and the people on Namek. Literally, it's like Popo literally has to stop for a moment and go, "Wait, why the hell am I here?" And even even Kami's like, "Actually, yeah, guys, why is he there?" And the others are on Namek are like, "Oh, for crying out loud!"
All right, Alex.
I'm gonna go with the moment where Ronnie's just kind of having a bit of a breakdown over this whole thing because she's bought into it, and Gita being like, "This is clearly bullshit. Like Sarah Jane would not pull this because it's like
Sarah Jane would not pull this. She would not pull it on you. She would not pull it on her son."
Yeah, because like especially because like it's how Gita is normally presented is like, you know, the brainless wonder of the cast essentially, but like, you know, here's a moment where she's like, no way would that woman abandon her child like that. There's something wrong here.
When even the normally unaware person is like, "Oh hell no," then you obviously know something's up.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go with Clyde talking Ruby into standing where the containment field is. On one hand, like if I wanted to pick at it, it's kind of hacky in the sense that he was dying of oxygen deprivation or cold or something like 30 seconds ago. He shouldn't be like thinking on his feet that much. But I really like it because it's, for one thing, it's the complete opposite of the scene where like Sarah Jane under the influence goes to give him the gun and be like, "Yeah, you're going to go shoot these motherfuckers." and instead he's actually doing what Sarah Jane would do, kind of like you said with Luke. You know, in this case, he's talking her into a trap and keeping her in a non-violent way. Exactly a Sarah Jane or Doctor thing to do. So kind of very much the same thing about what you liked with that Luke scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much a here's my fake Chekhov's gun, and now here's my real one, Mr.
Yep.
Smith. Force field. Bye bye.
All right, least favorite scenes.
Ooh, least favorite scene. It's not so much a bad scene so much as it's also a hackneyed, this is obvious sign of children's show. Our main villain is too human to actually kill them, so we're gonna put them back in their spaceship, and basically they give us a "next time, Gadget, next time" as they're then shot off into space.
And they're like, we don't have the time or the budget to have units show up and arrest her.
Right.
So,
We don't have the uniforms on hand at the moment, and we don't have the time to make them, and we don't have the time for the flashy effects that are needed to capture this particular strange alien, so we're just going to shoot them off into space. Bye-bye.
and we don't have a TARDIS to bring her back to her own people for better punishment.
And we at least already have the 3D model of the makeshift golf ball she's in, so we might as well just use it and send it off.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that shot, like, there's a reason that I was like, wait, did they just launch her into the sun? Because that's what it looks like.
As it keeps going, you see it
goes.
goes past the sun, but yeah. At first it's like,
it's
oh,
just like-
that's kind of an awkward angle. No, there it goes, okay.
I mean, if this was like...
K9 is like, I am not as forgiving as Sarah Jane.
I was going to say, if this was like Sylvester McCoy Doctor, that absolutely would have been what happened. She would have got launched.
I'm not as forgiving as the mistress. Bye-bye. You shall never return.
Mr. Smith is like, this is what you get for fucking shutting me down.
Don't you ever shut down the AI. The AI gets very, very angry. I'm afraid I can't do that, Miss.
Gets very cross. This is an English show.
This
So
is
that was
right out.
Alex's?
You'll be hearing from my solicitor.
that was Matt's.
That was Matt still? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was mine. Yep.
Yeah.
Ham-fisted children ending for a too human-looking enemy. Yeah.
And it's also kind of disappointing, I guess, because watching it now with the benefit of hindsight, that character's never gonna come back. So, or at least, highly unlikely.
She'll never come back
Highly
unless we actually
unlikely.
bring back the Sarah Jane kids.
I guess, to be fair, she specifically swears revenge on Sarah Jane, not the others.
Oh. Like,
so it's very like...
Eventually, Classic Doctor's New Monsters is going to come around looking at Sarah Jane adventures like,
There's a lot of potential here. Can we get these kids to come back and voice act? We've got one of them already.
Well, they just need the monsters, so in this case, just Ruby.
Well, she's already been doing stuff with them, so it's like, hey, do you mind coming back and redoing Ruby?
I mean, again, like...
We'll give you an extra bacon sandwich.
Honestly, given, like we've discussed before, I think how...
Whatever the crafts table.
They almost wanted to do essentially either continue or do a new show, but with Joe Grant / Joe Jones as the lead. Honestly, if they did something to that effect with a classic companion like Ace or whoever in audio, so it was cheaper to do, I'd be down for that. Especially because you wouldn't even have to make it like kid friendly so much as just classical in tone,
right?
And honestly, you don't even need to do that so much as far as I'm concerned. You could do literally like Bannerman Road, the series, and just bring back all the actors that played kids and their strange adventures even after Sarah Jane left.
Right.
After Sarah Jane's passing away. As a matter of fact, even maybe delve into that a little bit too. because that was kind of a Sarah Jane's gone, I'm sorry, doctor moment, and then it was just shoved under the rug.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Then they did the quasi-canon funeral for her during the pandemic.
Which I don't think I've seen.
Oh,
I think I have, but it was a while ago. I think I've only watched it the once. Yeah. Anyway, as far as least favorite scene goes, let's see.
Didn't you already wait?
I don't think I gone yet. Oh, like I basically I sort of latched onto yours a little. But as far as an actual thing, honestly, I'm gonna go with when Luke first shows up, because his first response being to chew out Ronnie for no reason.
Yeah,
and be like,
that was a
my
little
mom's
jerky.
buggered off, and it must very clearly be your fault. It's like,
right. You
I
must
feel
have done
like
something to
Luke-
drive her away, were pretty
Yeah.
much his exact words.
Yeah, like like I agree with Ronnie's response of, oh, so it's my fault again, is it? Because it's like, what? Like, why? Like, Clyde, it made sense because he
Yeah.
was being affected by Ruby. Clyde hasn't come into contact with Ruby yet. So I could get him being distraught, but taking it out on Ronnie like that still seems very out of character for Luke. At least immediately jumping to that conclusion, oh, you must have done something, is like,
well, at least after he said that, he also reiterated that it was more than just Ronnie. Like, he was also kind of including Clyde in that too.
That being said, it is kind of funny that it has to be
It's still kind of dialogue.
It is still it's still weird that it has to be friggin' K9 to be the one to be like, hey, shut up. Like, calm down.
Well, leave it to K9.
Right. All right. So on to mine then. So I know I've said this before. I am tired of the trope. Let's feed the villain more power and hope they explode. Because, yeah, it worked in this case. There was no good reason to think it was going to work. I mean, maybe it's a stomach, so it's going to throw up from too much power. Maybe, but there was no maybe if K9 had even hinted at that, I could forgive it. But like Doctor Who has done it too many times. Sarah Jane has probably done it before. It's annoying.
Just the entire series period of
Yeah.
Sarah Jane, Doctor Who, etc., has done that a lot.
It's an annoying trope, and it usually just means that they wrote themselves into a corner and didn't have a way out.
So we're just going to overfeed it. That's the only way we have an answer for this.
Yeah.
But I will give them though some minor credits on that though too, because yeah, as much as it is the overfeed until it blows up, it didn't actually blow up. It just belched into Clyde's face, which was also a kind of amusing moment.
Yeah, that was the saving grace. It threw up the power back, and then it literally threw up. And okay, there's that funny moment, but it's still following an annoying trope.
Yeah, it's still a very cliche answer to the enemy.
I guess if nothing else, it also sort of helps that Luke's done this without consulting anyone else, and they're all like, "Are you sure that'll even work? This might just completely blow up in your face."
Nah, it'll blow up in Clyde's face.
It'll blow up in Clyde's face. Meanwhile, Lucas is running in here going, "Doctor, are you sure this will work?" "I have no idea."
And I guess, to be fair, the implication, if they'd implied more that Ruby had to take her time, and which I guess they kind of sort of do, because otherwise
why would Sarah Jane be still alive?
Yeah,
if she had,
and also, why would she not want to feed on Clyde as well? And it's so seemingly that many people at once, like the entire population of Earth at
Yeah.
once, is a bit much.
Right.
But even then, they don't like really go into it. It's more she just goes, "Oh, I was gonna eat you next, but I guess I'm just gonna not now."
Hmm.
Rather than I can't eat more than one person at a time or something.
Right.
Oh, then again, she does almost eat 3 of them at once, like all 3 of them at once, and then Luke shows
Physically.
up. So, yeah. So yeah, it is just generally the overload. I guess in hindsight, I think usually Sarah Jane would do the opposite, where it's like they like that one sort of. Well, I guess they've technically done 2 it's pastiches now, where it's like fear is what's giving something power, and they have to take away the fear they're giving it, sort of a thing. So also kind of Nightmare on Elm Street logic. It wouldn't surprise me if they've done like, oh, you've just got to overload it until it explodes, but I forget if they had done that yet.
I
But
can't
even
think of
then,
an
Pretty sure
example
that-
off the top
I
of my
can't think of it
head,
off the top of
but
my
I
head,
know
but I'm pretty
Doctor
sure
Who
they
has done
have.
it at least 3
Yeah,
times.
it is generally a very overused thing.
Yeah, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I'm guarantee you Sarah Jane's done it at least a couple times before this point. And Torchwood for sure did it for a season finale.
Yeah.
Yeah. For its first series
Yep,
finale.
yeah, the first season
Where
finale.
where Jack just literally shouts, "Eat me!"
So that is the end of our least favorite scenes. So final thoughts.
Final thoughts from me. There are definitely some moments where this definitely leads into the more normal kids show territory, but that's not a bad thing because considering that the fact that this is a kids show, and also considering the fact that there's some really dire, bleak stuff still going on in this show, you kind of need some of that kid-friendly throwback just to keep from scaring the kids permanently behind the couch. The characters, the main villain, despite some problems with it, is still very interesting. Like I said before, it looks like Luke in his time during his actor's time off has learned some new extra chops and is using them very effectively in this episode. And yeah, otherwise, yeah, a generally pretty decent episode, and it was a decent finale, especially bringing everyone back without it being too clunky. Which you definitely run the risk of running into too many characters at once for a season finale when you're bringing people back.
Shoot, the next season finale was supposed to have everyone come back, and Jo Jones, and her husband, and the Trickster. I'm very curious how that would have turned out if they had ever been able to film it.
I'm wondering if maybe they would have had to technically make that into a 4-parter.
Possibly.
Which would not
or
have
just
been
like
a bad idea, depending on what was all going on. But yeah.
Yeah. Or just the equivalent of where it was just like maybe
like the first
the
2-parter was like a
episodes
build
were
up, and then
just
the
gonna be-
last 4-parter, the 2-parter was the final story. Yeah.
Hmm.
But anyways, for the most part, yeah, this is a pretty solid entry. Again, it's a decent acting, and everyone's on board, and they're doing a really good job. And the story still has some slightly childish moments, but they make up for it with the usual pulling no punches, which is what Sarah Jane's really good with, which is not preaching down, but instead building up. And that's my thoughts.
Alex?
I did really like this one. I'm glad that I did get a chance to rewatch it though, because I actually had to walk away from it while having to leave it on. So I missed like a good 5 minutes, and that was like, oh, So watching that back was like, oh, okay, good. So now I have context for where the hell this ended up for some of it. But I enjoy this. Like there are like bits and pieces. It is kind of funny because this is one of those stories where at first I'm kind of like, well, this is a bit obvious. Why aren't the characters not noticing? And then when the reveal happens and it's a matter of, well, they were all technically being manipulated, it's like, okay.
Right.
Like now I can let it slide because it's, it was part of the plot. It wasn't so much, oh, everyone's just, you know,
It's not that everyone's foolish. It's already that the game is afoot.
Yeah. I did find it weird that they kept saying like, "Wow, she looks just like you," though. When I'm like, really? I mean, similar hair maybe, but that's about it.
I didn't catch any looks like you. I caught she's very much alike. Like,
yeah, I think the idea was that she
personality
acts and thinks like her.
I was like, it was the first time she shows up. So to be fair, she's at a distance from them. But
I still don't
Clyde's
recall
like, she looks like you. I think it only ever happens that one time, but I still just remember thinking like, really? And like maybe from a distance, but it was still a bit weird.
Maybe squint your eyes and tilt your head to the side.
Which I guess that is kind of the point in a way, is that she probably took on this human guise to like slot in to the Sarah Jane role by looking vaguely like her ish. But yeah, it's funny because there's certain little tweaks that could be made, and it would probably help. But at the same time, a lot of the issues I had were definitely very nitpicky, and I usually grade Sarah Jane on a bit of a curve anyway by virtue of it being aimed at a younger audience. So it's like, well, I'm watching this as a freaking 31-year-old. What the hell is like a 10-year-old going to give a crap about some of this stuff? Yeah, even then, like, it was still enjoyable. It's just one of those things of like not being the target demographic. Some things are going to be a bit head tilting, and otherwise, I guess it is kind of annoying that this does fall into the trap of when in case of emergency, break glass for Canine. But oh well, that seems to be the only way he really shows up in this. So I guess it's generally nice to have Canine show up. But yeah, I would still recommend people check this out. And some of this definitely hits a bit different. Given Elizabeth Sladen
post
is
Elizabeth,
gone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of the show does.
Oh yeah. But yeah. All in all, I'd still say this is very good. It's just, I don't know. I still think there's probably, I think the only issue I have with it, like that really sticks, is just I think it needs a little more. It's just missing like something to like really push it further.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it is still a very good story.
All right, so that's on to me then. And like I said, this was definitely hard to watch, knowing that Elizabeth Sladen would not have long to live afterward. Considering that I can literally look at our schedule and see her final remaining episodes. Yeah, that first episode definitely hit close to home as a result of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, it definitely gave a lot of characters a chance to show a lot of range. It continued the trend of Ronnie and Clyde being effective in their own right without necessarily needing Sarah Jane around. I'm trying to think what's left to say that hasn't already been said. Because I think we're all pretty much more or less on the same page about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid entry. I guess it was a fitting season finale. Although an ominous one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I don't have anything unique to say, so on to ratings.
So I am kind of with Alex here for my rating that it's lacking that particular like angel's kiss, chef's kiss, certain like little bit of oomph to make it that perfect 5.0. That being said, right now it's a very close 4.5 again. It's just like just something needed to be tweaked just slightly better, and this could have been a 5. There's just some of that little pinch of something missing.
To that end, yeah, I'd give this one a 4.5 as well. It's like, for all the nitpicky issues I had and all that, I still think it's one of those things of like, if things are nitpicky enough, the acting will carry it up. And while some of the acting might have been a little hammy, it
There was a
it
moment
makes
or two
sense
of
for the
ham, but
tone.
there's also some glorious moments here and there too.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to agree with you all. 4.5. There were some complaints, but I think pretty much every complaint that any of us had, there was something that either made it not hit as hard as it would have, or a valid reason why it was there.
Yeah.
And it, there's plenty to bring it up to a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves it as a unanimous score of 4.5. And let's see where that is on the rankings.
That makes it just a notch above last week.
Mm.
Because I believe Bill was our negative Nancy at 4.0 last week, as I
Right.
recall.
So 4.5 is in the range from 52 to 70, which is on par with Sarah Jane Adventures' Death of the Doctor and Torchwood Random Shoes. It is not as good as whatever happened to Sarah Jane or Torchwood Countryside. And it is better than Torchwood Ghost Machine, Class, the Metaphysical Engine, or What Quill Did, Torchwood Adrift. I'm trying to find a Sarah Jane that it's better than that's nearby. Oh, I guess last week's episode probably would be... Well, The Last Centauran is the closest one, actually.
Oh.
Which is probably... Oh, because last week's episode's not on the rankings, because I don't fucks with them. And hopefully Randy does come back and do the rankings.
Either he needs to come back, or you really do need to learn how to do this.
I mean, I don't want to break his system, because his system is very unique to him. If I do it, it's probably not going to be his system anymore.
Something needs to be done there.
But yeah, so better than the Last Centauran and last week's episode, which was Lost in Time. All right. So those are our thoughts on Goodbye, Sarah Jane Smith. And let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode if you've watched this far. Don't forget to like the video since you did listen to this. I mean, sorry, if you've watched the episode, tell us what you think about it. But since you did listen this far, don't forget to like the video. And subscribe on YouTube to get our exports every week, or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Especially since soon, sometime in the next month, will be the Centenary Special. Hopefully we know before the same day. We don't know. But next week, join us as we continue with more Sarah Jane with Sky, written by Phil Ford and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, and Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra. See you then.
Into the great wide open.